Before Absolutely Fabulous and The Vicar of Dibley, there was French and Saunders, the comedy duo who rewrote the rules of British humour. Their sketches were wild, unpredictable, and often decades ahead of their time. Fact 1.
Pat Jones and Anne Bryant, Avengers 4.
When Dawn, French and Jennifer Saunders first met at drama school in the late 1970s, they didn't like each other at all. Both were shy, fiercely intelligent, and convinced the other was far too good. During their first class together, they sat in total silence, avoiding eye contact for the entire lesson. French later said she thought Saunders was a snooty cow, while Saunders admitted she found Dawn too bloody cheerful. Their tutor saw potential in their contrast and forced them to perform together. What began as awkwardness quickly turned into chemistry. They realised their opposites made each other funnier. Dawn's warmth balanced Jennifer's sharp dryness. By the end of term, they were inseparable, spending nights writing absurd sketches and laughing until sunrise. That unlikely friendship became the foundation of one of Britain's greatest comedy partnerships. They built their success not on rivalry, but on total trust, and that dynamic stayed unbroken for decades. Even when their careers exploded in different directions, they still called each other before every big decision.
Name please, miss. Miss Wobble.
Fact 2.
We are French and Saunders, high-heeled into space, bubble and squeak, women's theatre sweatshop.
When French and Saunders first pitched their show, the BBC executives were completely confused. Sketch comedy was dominated by men, and two women doing absurdist parodies seemed risky. Their early pilot was so strange that one producer called it too clever to be funny. They refused to simplify it, insisting that intelligence and silliness could coexist. When the BBC finally gave them a late-night slot, it was considered a quiet experiment. No one expected it to last, but the audience immediately connected with their chaotic energy. Their mix of highbrow literary jokes and lowbrow slapstick was unlike anything on television. Dawn once said, "We weren't trying to be ladylike, we were trying to be daft." Within weeks, fan letters poured in from young women who had never seen themselves reflected in comedy, before the BBC suddenly realised they had created a new kind of humour, one that was clever, fearless, and proudly female. The network that once doubted them soon began begging for more series.
Stop complaining, you'll get more to do as the show goes on, if that's all right.
Just I'm fed up being on your comedy yop scheme, that's all.
Fact 3.
Yes, they're wonderful. 12 trillion people watching our show.
Many of their most iconic sketches, like their send-ups of Titanic, The Sound of Music, and Silence of the Lambs, caused chaos behind the scenes because of copyright fears. The BBC's legal team constantly worried they'd be sued by Hollywood. French and Saunders ignored warnings, saying parody was part of British tradition. To calm lawyers down, they often changed just enough details to make the joke legal. In one famous case, they shot a full parody of Basic Instinct before anyone realised they didn't have permission to mimic the film. By the time the BBC found out, the sketch had already been edited and was too funny to cut. Dawn joked that the lawyers aged 20 years during every episode. Despite the stress, those film parodies became their signature. Huge cinematic spoofs filmed with absurd dedication. Saunders once said they spent more money on wigs than on props. Every parody was a love letter to movies and a rebellion against the idea that women couldn't play every role. Their attention to detail turned silliness into satire, proving that parody could be both smart and anarchic.
Terrible smell.
Oh, these are my golf socks.
How'd you know they're your golf socks?
Because they're coarse and they've got 18 holes.
Fact 4.
Listen, who is top executive supreme in charge on this show at the moment? I am!
You are!
Unlike most sketch writers, French and Saunders rarely started with a script. They'd meet for coffee, gossip for hours, and wait for something ridiculous to happen naturally. Once one of them laughed hard enough to spill a drink, they'd say, "Right, that's it, that's the sketch." They often improvised entire scenes while cameras rolled, trusting instinct more than planning. Crew members described the set as organised chaos with perfect timing. Jennifer handled structure while Dawn chased spontaneity. Sometimes a single joke would grow into a 3-minute masterpiece, purely by accident. They believed real comedy came from imperfection, so fluffed lines often stayed in the final cut. One sketch about two posh women drinking wine was improvised almost entirely, including the moment a glass shattered on set, which they turned into part of the joke. Their raw, unfiltered process made their humour feel alive. What audiences saw wasn't rehearsed perfection, but two friends daring each other to go further, funnier and weirder every time.
You're Annie. Here we are, Annie. Little token of my thanks. Thank you for working on my show. I'm Jennifer Saunders.
Fact 5.
Do you mean Christian or surname?
Well, you know, don't you, love? You know in your heart.
Their parodies of pop icons like Madonna, ABBA and the Spice Girls became legendary and surprisingly accurate. When they dressed as ABBA for Mamma Mia, years before the musical existed, they nailed every accent, every pose, every glittery disaster. Real musicians adored it. Lulu sent them flowers after being roasted in one episode, while Cher reportedly kept a VHS copy of her own parody. But not everyone was flattered. One rock star banned them from using his name after seeing how precise their imitation was. Saunders later said, "It's not that we mocked them, we became them." They spent hours studying music videos to get choreography and lip sync perfect. The commitment turned harmless parody into full-blown performance art. Some sketches took longer to film than actual pop promos. Fans loved that they weren't mocking fame but celebrating its ridiculousness. Their ability to capture glamour and foolishness in the same breath made them cultural mirrors, reflecting the absurd theatre of celebrity with style and affection.
As we drove there together, my boys are sitting side by side. I espied this fair lad's trouser flies. By chance they came untied.
Fact 6.
Only women bleed.
Working with Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders was both a dream and a nightmare for guest stars. Every comedian and actor in Britain wanted to appear on the show, but few could keep a straight face. Rick Mayall, Joanna Lumley and Ruby Wax all struggled to finish takes because the pair constantly ad-libbed new lines. Lumley later said, "You'd rehearse one version, then filming started and it became something else entirely." The unpredictability made every sketch feel electric. Actors who were used to precise timing found themselves corpsing mid-scene while the camera kept rolling. Dawn loved when guests lost control, calling it proof we'd broken their seriousness. Sometimes that laughter stayed in the edit because the duo believed honesty was funnier than polish. George Michael reportedly begged to return after his first cameo, saying he'd never laughed so much on a set. The cast of the comic strip Presents often dropped by just to watch the chaos unfold. French and Saunders treated their guests like partners in mischief, not props for jokes. Their sets became playgrounds where even the most dignified celebrities were happy to look ridiculous because everyone knew the laughter was genuine.
No, it's a musicians' union, you see. They only play for 3 minutes and they have to go and have a drink in the bar.
Fact 7.
Really, I'm just delighted to have this opportunity, just to tell you what a super person Jenny is.
Oh no!
Each new series of French and Saunders was given a bigger budget, and somehow they spent every penny. The show became notorious for going wildly over schedule and over cost, mainly because they refused to compromise on their extravagant ideas. They once recreated the entire Titanic sinking using miniature models and buckets of water in the studio. Another time, they rented a full orchestra for a sketch that lasted less than a minute. The production manager reportedly sighed, "They make comedy like Kubrick made films, slowly, beautifully and expensively." Yet that extravagance was part of the joke. Two women using serious cinematic techniques to act utterly stupid. The audience could feel the effort behind the absurdity, which made it even funnier. Jennifer Saunders later confessed they often had no idea how much they were spending until it was too late. She called it reckless creativity, the kind of freedom that only the BBC of the 80s could have afforded. Every episode looked bigger than a sketch show should, more like a parody of Hollywood itself. In the end, the chaos paid off because no other comedy looked or felt like French and Saunders. Fact 8.
It's me and Karen standing on the top.
It's the first aerial view, miss. Would it look like that,
Not everyone understood what they were trying to do. Early reviews were confused, with some journalists calling the show too silly to be smart and too smart to be silly. French and Saunders found that hilarious. It meant they'd succeeded in being impossible to categorise. They refused to play by any rules of format or gender expectations. Some male critics wrote that women couldn't do physical comedy, so the duo responded by dedicating an entire episode to pratfalls, wigs, and fake noses. Dawn once said, "If they call us messy, we'll be messier. If they call us shrill, we'll get louder." Their defiance became their trademark over time. Those same critics quietly changed their tone, realizing the show was redefining what comedy could be. By its later seasons, French and Saunders was considered a national institution. The series proved that women's humour didn't have to be polite, romantic, or tidy. It could be wild, experimental, and brilliantly stupid, and that was revolutionary today. Even those early bad reviews feel like part of the legend. Proof that genius often arrives disguised as nonsense.
Your mother can't even sew properly because...
Don't talk about my family.
Your family, your family, your family!
Fact 9.
I'm ill. Most of my leg bones have fallen out. I can hardly walk.
Every major British female comedian who came after them points back to French and Saunders. Catherine Tate, Miranda Hart, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge all credit the duo for proving that women could own both the stage and the joke. They showed that vulnerability and absurdity weren't opposites, but tools for storytelling. The BBC later said the pair blew the doors open for an entire generation. Dawn and Jennifer mentored younger talent, often inviting them to write or rehearse on set. They believed that helping others shine didn't dim their own light, it multiplied it. In interviews, both women said their proudest legacy wasn't fame but freedom. The idea that women could be as bold, filthy, or fearless as any man in comedy. Their sketches inspired countless drama school students who grew up watching VHS tapes of their shows. Even American comedians, from Tina Fey to Amy Poehler, cited their surreal confidence as a blueprint. The ripples from their partnership still shape comedy today. You can trace their fingerprints in every weird, fearless woman on screen.
You can have safe sex if you can't even spell it properly.
Fact 10.
I don't see how it can still be frozen after 6 hours in the Arga bottom oven, do you?
One sketch became so realistic that the duo accidentally offended the very people they admired. It was their 1993 parody of Thelma and Louise, a film both women adored. They recreated it shot for shot, complete with a real car on a fake cliff. The director warned them it looked too convincing, but they laughed it off. When the episode aired, a few American journalists accused them of mocking feminism, missing the irony completely. Dawn responded publicly saying, "We weren't mocking women, we were mocking how people talk about women." The controversy only boosted the show's fame, turning it into international news. The pair refused to apologise, explaining that parody always lives on the edge of misunderstanding. Fans loved their boldness. Even Susan Sarandon later praised the sketch for its accuracy and nerve. It proved that French and Saunders could parody anything, even sacred pop culture, without losing their heart. They never played it safe because safety was the death of comedy, and that fearless approach made them legends long before anyone dared to call them that.
Normal. You might be a VD or a Homo sapien or something.
Fact 11.
Includes a mini carton of Umbongo and a Garibaldi biscuit.
Despite decades of working side by side, French and Saunders were famous for never falling out. Colleagues often remarked that their calm friendship was unnerving in an industry built on ego. Their secret was simple. They found different things funny. When one was tired, the other would instinctively pull back. Dawn once said, "We never compete, we just take turns being ridiculous." Jennifer, more reserved, balanced Dawn's energy like gravity balancing flight. They trusted each other's instincts so completely that arguments never had time to grow. If tension appeared, they laughed it away before it could turn serious. Producers recalled them finishing each other's sentences while editing sketches, their rhythm perfectly in sync. That mutual respect made the show feel warm even at its most chaotic. They weren't just friends, they were creative mirrors reflecting each other's madness. When fans asked how they managed to stay so close, Dawn replied, "Because we make each other laugh, and that's a kind of love." That laughter became the fuel for 4 decades of comedy without a single public feud, a rarity that made their partnership even more extraordinary.
Hilary Edmondson. She was the first woman to be explored at Mount Everest.
Fact 12.
Of course, this morning, after 9, I'm going to be looking at some women's things.
Some of their funniest sketches almost ended in disaster. During a parody of The Sound of Music, Jennifer tripped over a cable, rolled down a fake hill, and accidentally dragged the entire backdrop with her. Instead of stopping, Dawn improvised a new line. "Oh, look, Austria's collapsing!" And the audience roared. Another time, a prop cannon misfired during a period spoof covering both women in black soot. They refused to cut the take, insisting it made the joke funnier. On another shoot, they accidentally set off a fire alarm while filming a spy mission sketch. Forcing the entire building to evacuate, crew members called it the most expensive punchline ever. Their ability to turn chaos into comedy became legendary. They believed that mistakes were gifts, not failures. If something broke, they'd use it. If a line flopped, they'd mock themselves until it worked. This improvisational bravery made every episode feel alive, as if anything could happen, and often did. The unpredictability wasn't an accident. It was the soul of their humour.
Situated at the surface exterior of the Earth's crispy, crunchy crust.
I see.
Fact 13.
Susie, can I take your jacket? No, it goes with my skirt, thanks.
Absolutely Fabulous began as a tiny sketch on French and Saunders called Modern Mother and Daughter. Jennifer Saunders wrote it as a throwaway idea about a glamorous, self-absorbed mum, and her sensible child Dawn French played the daughter, rolling her eyes while Jennifer swanned around in designer clothes. The audience response was explosive. They demanded more. Producers urged Jennifer to expand it into a series, and thus Edina and Patsy were born. Dawn was thrilled for her friend, saying, "It was the first time one of our jokes grew legs and ran off on its own." She could have joined the cast, but chose to step back and support from behind the scenes. That decision showed the deep respect between them. No jealousy, just pride. Absolutely Fabulous went on to become one of Britain's biggest comedy exports, but its roots remained in the chaos of French and Saunders. Even years later, Jennifer admitted she still heard Dawn's laugh in her head whenever Edina did something stupid. Their shared DNA was stitched into every designer disaster.
Yes, now, a free postcard to anyone who spends over £20,000.
Fact 14.
Say perfectly normal. If worried, see doctor. He'll give you some pills or something.
Both comedians married men who worked in the same comedy circuit, and those relationships often bled into their sketches. Dawn French was married to Lenny Henry, while Jennifer Saunders married Adrian Edmondson from The Young Ones. Their husbands occasionally appeared on the show, sometimes willingly, sometimes after heavy persuasion. Edmondson once joked that he was blackmailed with cake. The couple shared a rare creative intimacy. They could mock each other publicly and laugh about it. Later, Lenny Henry even inspired a few affectionate parodies about fame and race in the British entertainment industry. At home, comedy was constant. Dinners often turned into improvised performances. Their children grew up surrounded by scripts, wigs, and spontaneous laughter. Dawn once said that their families knew when to leave the room, usually just before we put on fake moustaches. The collaboration between partners blurred the line between private life and performance, but it also made the show feel honest. Their humour was never detached. It was lived, shared, and deeply human.
Still ever do you? Jigs about a bit,
Fact 15.
I always don't know where to put the eyes. Put I, and then just,
Even decades after the last series, French and Saunders remains the heartbeat of British comedy. Their sketches are studied in universities, remixed on TikTok, and quoted by comedians who weren't even born when the show aired. Both women went on to huge solo success. Dawn in The Vicar of Dibley, Jennifer in Absolutely Fabulous. But together they created something unmatched. They proved that women could be surreal, physical, and unapologetically stupid without losing depth or intelligence. Their influence stretches far beyond television, shaping stage shows, podcasts, and every sketch duo that followed. When they reunited for anniversary specials, the reaction was like a national holiday. Fans said it felt like old friends coming back to save comedy. Their partnership became a model of loyalty, longevity, and laughter. And perhaps the weirdest fact of all is that they never planned to be legends. They just wanted to make each other laugh. That simple, joyful mission changed British television forever, one ridiculous wig at a time.